Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Frank here, continuing to work on the interior trim on my home addition. Today I'm upstairs here, going to trim these windows, basically casings, and I've got a process which I think is a little different. It's certainly different from anything I've done before. There are some people on YouTube who are using this particular technique, so it's new to me, but we're going to check it out. So I just finished putting the casing up on this window, also the apron. So this one's done, except obviously for painting. And I've got the components cut for all the other windows up here. And I've also assembled one of the casings with the head and the legs. So I'll show you what I've got with this. So this is the head and the two legs for a window like this. There's two more, one in the closet and one in the bathroom. And they're glued together here. So I glued these together last night and just threw one up here. It fit fine, nailed it off. Added the apron underneath it, and so this particular window is done. One of the reasons to pre-assemble these casing assemblies is to ensure that you have a near perfect miter up here. So these two pieces are joined together with a miter clamp, so you have a good joint and are glued together. So when you set this up on the windowsill, you know, you've got your reveals already calculated and the miters are essentially perfect. So that's one of the advantages of this technique. It's done. I'm going to go do another window, and then we'll come back and I'll show you my method for gluing these casing assemblies together. So the casings are assembled with these miter clamps. They call them cam clamps. So they have sharp points on here, and when you turn this handle, it pulls the miter joint together. I'm also using a hot melt polyurethane glue. So this is the glue gun. It takes glue cartridges like this. And heats them up. Turn it on, set it to the high temperature. There's two different temperatures on here. Generally, for this glue, use the higher temperature, gives you a lower viscosity of the glue as it comes out. And we'll let it heat up about 15 or 20 minutes, and then I'll show you how it works. All right, let's see if we can pick up this casing assembly. Without it coming apart. This is probably where you could use an extra person. And I'm going to check out my reveal there and here, pretty close. Always nail the miters first. Both sides of the miters. Get our reveal consistent here. Okay, so that's another casing. So I don't have the apron cut for that yet. Let's glue up another casing assembly for this next window. I'll show you how we do that. 2 legs, right and left legs. And then the head piece. All right, for this joint, I'll show you how the clamp works. Align your 2 legs, close the miter, put the clamp on it, turn the handle, so it causes the teeth to dig in and squeeze the miter together. So you do that once so that you have the joint in alignment. Unscrew the cap on the glue. So this is not regular hot melt glue. This is a polyurethane glue that cures with water. Now it is a hot melt glue in the sense that it's melted now, but it also solidifies and then cures over time with moisture in the air as a catalyst. So like Gorilla Glue, for example, is polyurethane glue that cures over time with moisture. And now you see the squeeze out here is turning white, so that indicates that it's starting to cool, and it's actually easy at this point to just peel off. So any glue squeeze out on these joints doesn't really cause a problem. So you can get the squeeze out off pretty easily. Now, in a case like this where the molding is relatively small in cross-section, by itself like this, it's not going to be really strong enough to pick up and move around until it has a chance to cure several hours or even overnight, so to move it around. Now, is that worth the effort to do this and wait overnight for these to cure? I mean, that's a question. Depends on your work process and how, you know. All right, let's glue up this other one. All right, so by tightening the clamp partially, you get the teeth to dig into the sides of the molding. So that establishes their locations for when you finally assemble it. All right, so this glue has a 30-second open time. So you do have to be prompt about getting the glue in the joint and getting it clamped. So you want to make sure it's aligned properly. So after this sets for a few minutes, we'll put it down on the floor and let it cure the rest of the way. Once it's set up like this, it will hold together for gentle handling, but being a relatively small cross-section molding, it's not going to be very sturdy until it has a chance to cure fully. You can get a dull putty knife or something to remove any of the excess glue. Depending on how fussy you want to be or need to be. I'll leave a link in the description for the glue and the glue gun. All right, so this is the glue, pure. This is the 30-second. They sell it in the 30, 60, and 90-second, I think. And so it's 30-second set time. And then, of course, it becomes stronger over time. And it's not just regular hot melt glue. It's a totally different material. It's not just, plastic that you melt, nylon that you melt and stick stuff together. This is actually a polyurethane adhesive. So there's a tube in here. The tubes are like $12 or $14. The glue gun's reasonable. It's less than $100. So, and you can use it for other applications. This is just one potential application for this, for the glue. All right, that's one side. All right, I can give you a little recap of where I am. Been working today, adding the casing, aprons. This is one of the windows. It's actually the closet. Got this first double window finished. Still got two more to do. This one's finished. The door casing is finished. This window here in the back is finished. This window is not. Getting ready to work on the casing for this window. And both sides of this door, which go into the house, the original house, that's cased. So closing in on the casing. If you decide to take this approach and use the polyurethane glue to glue up your casing, you have to be very accurate. I have to say that there is little forgiveness once you glue up these corners. I'm having some problem because there's a variation in thickness on some of this molding. So you get from one end of a piece to another, different thicknesses. So with the variations in thickness, getting them to line up at the corner sometimes is a problem. So if you do decide to go down this path, I would recommend that you inspect your molding carefully. I bought this at Lowe's. It must have come from different suppliers because different pieces have slightly different dimensions. Makes it very difficult to make good mitered corners. I've had to pick through some of the molding to get pieces which match properly. This particular piece does match. In fact, some of the pieces actually are different thickness from one end to the other, for example. So I can only recommend then maybe you go to a more reputable supplier than your typical box store. So on this addition, I have spent close to $2,000 on trim, which includes all the lumber for, oh, actually more than that. Almost $3,000. About $1,000 for the finger jointed primed pine to extend all the casings. That stuff was very expensive. I do have a little bit left over of that. A 16-foot 1x10 is like $75. 5/4 by 10 was $96 in the finger jointed primed pine lumber. So it was pretty expensive. I think I spent $500 and some on that. And then $900 on casing, and then another $800 on shoe mold and a couple of doors. So I still need to get 3 more doors. I have 2 doors right now. They'll come in upstairs here. All right, so if you decide to use this glue, you know, the gun's only $100 and it is temperature controlled, digitally controlled. So I can't really complain about that. But it is kind of easy to come apart. So, you know, I think they could have a better locking system on it. It's come apart on me a couple times. I think my recommendation is to get the 30-second glue, 30-second set time glue. And the more fragile the molding is, the thinner the cross section, the larger the piece, with a thin cross section, the longer you need to let it set. And I think I would even, in some cases, let it dry overnight, which means you have to plan ahead. If you're going to do that, if you're going to let the molding set up and cure overnight to get maximum strength so that you can handle it without fear of breaking, you need to plan ahead to, accommodate that. That is, you need to have other things to do while this stuff is curing. And if you're going to wait overnight, then maybe what you do is late in the day, you go ahead and glue up a bunch and you set them aside and let them cure overnight and come back the next morning and install them. So it does take some pre-planning if you're going to take that approach. There are several manufacturers that sell these clamps. I'll put a link to the Amazon version that I purchased. Well, not Amazon version, but from Amazon. They're $29 or $39 for these clamps. These actually work very well. I don't have any issue with them. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and clamp up this one frame. This is for the window. It's not going to have a windowsill. It's going to be picture frame because it's over the bathtub. So let's glue this one up. All right, so again, the routine is go ahead and clamp the corner to establish the marks in the lumber. So you see there, the gun fell apart on me. So that's inconvenient for it to do that. I don't see any way to lock it together. So one advantage of the hot melt glue is that you can move around from corner to corner . got a couple nails in that corner. Come down to this corner. Basically here, just making sure my reveals are consistent. All right, that looks good. So basically, first thing is I check reveals. About 3/16. All right, this is my last window. Let's see how I did on my measurements on this casing. And that looks perfect. Okay. All right, that fit perfect. So by assembling that ahead of time, gluing it up, it's a lot easier to install than trying to deal with individual pieces one at a time, I think. So I kind of like the technique using the glue gun. I mean, you could use different ways to glue it and different clamps, but the ones I used seem to be pretty easy. All right. Of course, I'm running the tiniest little bead of caulk. All right, a little different now because electricians today hooked up most of the lighting in the addition. There's still a couple circuits not energized. He ran out of breakers in the panel, but much better be able to work in here with, lights, not a work light. So, but that's going to be it for this episode. I've got all the windows and doors cased and ready for paint. I've got, next step up here is a couple of pre-hung doors, and then base mold and shoe mold. So those are the next two things. And then there's kind of two bigger projects up here. One is built-ins for the closet and the bathroom. Now, we do have a master bath off of the existing master bedroom, but we would like to get the master bedroom furniture moved in here, be able to use this space so we can turn our old master into an office, because we kind of desperately need some office space, on this level in the house. So those are kind of the priorities up here. Downstairs, still concrete floor. We have a contractor lined up to put down LVT, so that's coming up pretty soon. And as soon as that's in, then again, got 3 split jamb pre-hung doors to go in down there, and base mold and shoe mold. So that'll finish off the basement space for at least a little while. The bathroom down there is lower priority and probably won't get dealt with for maybe 6 months or something like that. So that's coming. All right, that's it for this week. Thank you for watching. Leave me a comment if you saw anything that didn't look right to you. And especially if you've used that pure glue, I'd be interested in hearing your experiences with it. So at first I had a little misgivings about it, but I think the more I used it, the more I liked it. And as you saw the last casing I put up on that window, this is going to be over the bathtub. Couldn't be easier to hang that casing rather than dealing with individual pieces of casing and trying to fit it together. Just put it up like a picture frame and nail it off. So I think that's a much easier way to install the casing. So, all right, let me know what you think, and we'll see you next week.